Welcome back to the Talk Your Tail Off podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa, but you probably know me as Girl with the Dogs. For today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing a dog trainer with a very interesting background. But before we get started, I'd love to encourage you all to join this community by hitting that subscribe button. And if you're interested in the grooming products that I know and love, you can find them on my website, growwiththedogs.com, and use code TALKTAIL for 10% off your first order. Now let's dive in to today's episode. Hello, Joel. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited to have you today.
Thank you, Vanessa. I'm excited to be here.
I found you through YouTube on your YouTube channel, Beckman's Dog Training. And that was because I had gotten a German Shepherd puppy and I was looking for different ways to train her. So your channel came up and I thought that your training methods were really interesting and also your history was really interesting. So I'll let you have the floor to discuss how you got into dog training and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Okay. I started Beckman's Dog Training in 2008 after I left SeaWorld. I'm guessing we're going to get into the SeaWorld stuff. Maybe not. My wife and I bought a facility, or it was a piece of property. I offered group classes, board and train, in-home sessions. I had never trained a dog, or I trained like one dog before I ever became a dog trainer. But I had worked with exotics, wolves, lions, monkeys, and then I had worked with killer whales at SeaWorld. And then I just left and started Beckman's. I then, around COVID, my friend saw a video of me on Instagram and he said, "You should do YouTube." And I said, "I don't want to do YouTube. I'm too late for YouTube." And he said, "Trust me, do 2 videos a week, make a thumbnail, keep going. I think it'll work." And I said, "Okay, whatever, fine." He's actually my podcast host. That's the guy who did that. I then did it and it just kind of slowly went well and got a couple bigger videos and then started doing it more. And it got, relatively big, not as big as you, Vanessa. You're a giant on YouTube. Good job to you. And then, doing YouTube, doing social media. And then I started Beckman Coaching Program, which is to become a professional dog trainer. And I'm launching Beckman Aggression Program in a couple weeks. So basically, there's the physical location and my physical training with dogs. Then there's social media, and then these 2 other programs. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with the business.
I'm going to say that training exotic animals is a unique experience. And I'm also going to say that I think most people have probably trained dogs before they started training wolves. So I would love to know how you got started with exotics and how that transitioned into dog training.
Yes. Long story short, I was a animal kid. That's all I wanted to do was work with animals. I met a guy who rehabbed raccoons and fawns and occasional bear, and I used to go to his house and help him. Then I met Terry. Her name was Rains back then. She's from Eugene, Oregon, where I'm from, and she had a mountain lion. It's now Terry Irwin. And she would let me go inside the ropes at petting zoos with her mountain lion. And that really made me want to work with big cats. So I wanted to go to Africa and work with big cats. That was my dream. Then I just grew up and kind of lived life. And then around 23, I discovered this place called Moore Park Exotic Animal Management and Training Program in Simi Valley, California, in Southern California. And I was like, this is the place I need to go. So I went there wanting to work with big cats. They have big cats. They have a lion, a tiger, mountain lions. They have a hyena. They have wolves. They have monkeys. They have birds. They have dogs. They have everything. I went there and I was like, this is the greatest place in the world. This is my place. About halfway through, I realized I love training animals. I love the science of it. I love everything about it. It's fun. It's good for the animals. I like training animals. So then I said, well, where can you train animals the most? And I don't mean like, for shows and what, like, you can be with them. A big cat conservationist in Africa, which is what I wanted to do, was like really hands off, and I wanted to be more hands on. So then I said, well, marine mammal training is probably the place. That's the highest level of animal training you can get. And I know all the levels of animal training. I know the movie and TV industry. I know the dog training industry. Or at that time, I didn't. But I know zoos. I know marine mammals. And that's the place. That's like the Harvard of animal training is marine mammal training. So then I did a couple of job interviews, got up for a few jobs with dolphins, and then SeaWorld said, we'll give you a job with the killer whales. And I was like, that wasn't even on my radar. I wasn't a big SeaWorld guy. I don't know if I'd ever been to SeaWorld. And then, but I said, it's killer whales. It's cool, right? They're pretty awesome animals. Took that job, moved to Orlando, 3 years killer whales there, transferred to San Diego, because I lived kind of up and down the West Coast. And then I met my wife at SeaWorld. She was a killer whale trainer. And then we basically had our first child, and we said, we don't want to work for somebody. We want to work for ourselves. So I left and started Beckman's. That was in 2008. And that's kind of more of my history of working with exotics.
So this storyline is extremely fascinating to me because I am a huge animal person, but I've been obsessed with animals since I was very, very young. And the idea of even petting a big cat would be like a dream come true for me. So hearing all of this makes me extremely jealous of you and what you've experienced in your lifetime, because that's just incredible. I love everything from animals to marine life. I've swam with sharks. It's just, I don't know what it is about. I love dogs and cats, but I don't know what it is about exotics that are just very fascinating to me. And even just going to Africa and seeing them in their natural environment would be an incredible experience. I hope to experience one day. But let's get back to training big cats, because I love big cats. What out of all of them would you think is the easiest to tame or train?
Okay. I love it. I love your questions, Vanessa, because this is my brain all the time. Okay. Out of big cats, you're saying, right?
Yes.
Big cats. Okay. So there's only so many big cats. There's mountain lions, there's jaguars, there's lions, there's tigers, and there's leopards. Cheetahs aren't really classified as a big cat. They sort of are, but they sort of aren't. The snow leopards really aren't. They're kind of the medium cats. So we have 5 cats. That's your question. I'm going to take it very literally because that's how I am. Out of those animals, it's pretty easy. It's a mountain lion. It's a cougar. So if you think about the African animals, now you got me going, Vanessa. We can talk all day. So if you think about the African animals, they live in a very difficult world. Everything's trying to kill them, and they're trying to kill everything. It's violent. Africa is just on a different level. If you're an animal from Africa, I think you have it in you to just be more violent, because you have to. It's in you. It's in your brain. Okay. So you're going to eliminate the lions and the leopards for me. I would be very. I mean, you can be with a lion. I follow people on social media, and they have it can happen. But for me, especially leopards are very unpredictable and very dangerous. And if they come at you differently. They'll jump on you this way. They'll use their legs because they climb trees more than like another animal. So they're going to actually use their back leg. I'm now getting into, if you were attacked, which one would you not want to be attacked by, right? Leopards, I don't want to be attacked by a leopard or a lion or any of them. But mountain lions, cheetahs are number one, but we're not putting them in big cats. I would say it's a mountain lion. They can just be a little chiller, a little more normal cat-like, not so aggressive. Tigers, they're just so darn big. Jaguars, they bite so hard. Jaguars would be probably number 2, but they bite hard. Jaguars, they have big old heads. If you think about dogs, and dogs, you groom dogs, so you touch dogs a lot. You feel these dogs with their heads, like a hyena has a cinder block for a head. It's basically a square head. Some of these dogs too, that's muscle is for biting. All that head, all that muscle is to bring that lower jaw up. So, these big-headed dogs and cats like jaguars, you just don't, or hyenas, you don't want to be bit by them. So to answer your question, it's a mountain lion.
Interesting. And we have mountain lions here in Canada. So you've also trained wolves.
I've trained one wolf. Um, the wolf at our school was a dog. We were careful because it's a wolf, but she was a big dog. Not all of them are like that, though. I mean, if you've seen online, these people interact with wolves, they're different. But wolves, to not get off topic, wolves have a really unique relationship with humans. Canines have a unique, I can't explain it. It's probably the reason that dogs are now in our homes, and because I can't explain the wolf or dog human relationship, but it's unique. I saw a video. I used to just record. I'm 48, so I would have to put the VHS, in the recorder and hit. And if I was gone, I recorded every animal show. Then something like 40 years ago, there was this video, and this camera crew went into a wolf den, like all these wolves ever, and they just walked in and filmed these wolves. And I was like, why aren't these wolves ripping these people apart? And they were like, weirdly, there's just some relationship between wolves and humans that is actually quite unique. So my working with a wolf was pretty tame, but there is a unique relationship between wolves and people that's quite interesting, in my opinion.
And then you went from land animals to working with marine life, such as orcas. Orcas, again, for me, I was researching all winter, this past winter, where I could go to swim with them. So tell me a little bit about what it's like to train an orca, because to me, again, it's just mind-boggling that we can actually train these animals.
Yeah. So people ask what they feel like. They feel like a wet tire, if you wanted to know. And they have lines throughout their whole body. So if the killer whale, I call them killer whales for a variety of reasons, but the killer whale goes this way. They have lines, tiny little lines that go, I guess, not long ways, but the opposite of long ways throughout their whole body. So I feel like a tire. They have these little tiny lines throughout their body, probably for movement. To train them, they're the most power. It would be like training a bull elephant. Like me, no human can understand the power that these animals have. Like you actually can't. That doesn't make any sense. You can't comprehend it. I've seen them like get into fights, and I saw this one, like they get in fights. All animals get in fights in captivity and in the wild. They get in fights, okay? And they came up, and these two big males like hit each other, and you could feel it 30 feet away. It was like a car accident, and they were fine. It was a full-on car accident. And they're fine. So you can't even understand the strength of these animals. It's impossible to understand it. To train them specifically is you use positive reinforcement and shaping. So shaping is essentially successive small steps towards a final step. Successive approximations is shaping, okay? And it's 99% positive reinforcement with marine mammals. That's for a variety of reasons, okay? That's how you train them. It is not that way, or it shouldn't be that way in dog training for a variety of reasons. But that's what we use. We use long target poles. You train tiny steps. So if you want to train a front flip, you train it in front of you. A front flip is a whale or a dolphin coming out of the water and then doing a full flip like that, okay? You can, in the middle of the pool. It takes a year to train that behavior, every day for a year. So you take a target pole and you teach them to just move their head. Target pole is a thing that they touch their nose to. Teach them to just move their head. Bloop. Then you bridge, which is like a clicker in dog training, but it's a whistle in marine mammal training. And you bridge and you say, that was good right there. Your head going down was good, right? Shaping behavior. Boom. Then you go a little farther and they go, wah, and they go a little farther and you bridge and reinforce. Then you slowly move it to the middle of the pool. You get a longer target pole. They start to come up out of the water. You use a target pole. That's why I'm doing my hand like this. come out of the water, then you bring that target pull around this so they start to flip. Then you sort of identify criteria. So it's no longer under the water, it needs to be out of the water. So criteria for a front flip is their head as they flip staying clear of the water. Then you try to get it higher and higher. So you increase the criteria and you only reinforce the good ones. Maybe they're in a good mood that day. Maybe they have a lot of energy and they do some giant one. You bridge and jackpot. This is all dog training stuff, by the way. You jackpot that behavior. To swim with them is a different story. That's a long, difficult process that, like, if you're athletic, you're going to be better at it. If you have a relationship with the whale, which you need to at that point, obviously, you're better at it. And then you have to deal with killer whales or with lions or with elephants, chimps. You need to minimize frustration. That's very important. Frustration leads to aggression. And if you can minimize frustration, you're well on your way to not getting killed by one of these things. So you have to reinforce them for making mistakes, but making them well, for not being frustrated for not getting a bridge or not getting reinforced. It's complex. I mean, I could talk about this stuff for hours, giving you the Cliff Notes kind of version.
To hear that you don't want to frustrate them because that's can bring aggression. My first thought as soon as you said that was, well, they're living in captivity. So are they not always frustrated? Obviously, the world has their opinions of any type of wild animal in captivity. So what was your experience working with them? Did you feel like they were frustrated for the small areas that they were kept? Obviously, what are your opinions on it? You clearly left that industry, so I'm just curious what your opinion on all of that is.
All right, I'm going to give you my no holes barred opinion on this, and I have no dog in the fight. Okay, I have no relationship with SeaWorld. I have a lot of thoughts on animals in captivity. If someone in your audience, and many will in your audience, say they don't belong in captivity, I'm not going to change their mind, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. Okay, so animals, there are species, there are certain animals that can be in captivity and be fully fine. They just can. There's animals that do very poorly in captivity. I am not a fan of zoos. Okay, I am not a fan of zoos for a variety of reasons. One, zoos don't train. Training is very good for mental and physical health. They learned this with elephants. I won't get into it, but they would get foot problems because they're not walking. And in the wild, elephants will walk many, 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 many miles a day. And in captivity, guess what they do? They sit by where they get fed from all day and they get foot problems and mental problems. It's very bad. And zoos are very bad at training. SeaWorld's credit, to SeaWorld's credit, and you can hate SeaWorld, I don't care. I have a lot of disagreements with them. To SeaWorld's credit, they understood this and they said, we are going to train and physically exercise our animals all day long. So you can mitigate a bit of that frustration, a bit of that being in the wild, not being in the wild. You can mitigate it a bit. Would I like them to have bigger pools? Absolutely. Do I think they should be there? I'm not sure. What is the pro to them being there? What about the kids who go and enjoy them? Is that something? Is that worth the animals not being happy there? No, probably not, but it's something. In life, you need to make a decision. And when you have like kids, like our kids are homeschooled, they do high level sports, I have businesses. There's big decisions being made almost every day, and you have to make this pros and cons list. There's no easy decisions. And then something gets here and you go, okay, we're going to go with this. But you have to take everything into account. Should the whales be there? Should the dolphins be there? Should the sea lions be there? Should any animal be in captivity? It's tough to say. I was going to come up with a number system. And the system was, how happy are the actual animals in that environment? how much do the animals help their wild counterparts? There's basically 3 to 4 criteria. How unhappy are the animals or happy are the animals in the environment? How much do they help their wild counterparts? For example, the rhino reintroduction program, right? It's almost down to 0, put rhinos in captivity, bred them, release them. Does that work? Maybe. That's a good thing. That's captivity, and that's a good thing. Now, is that only with rhinos? Is that only with, then captivity doesn't work, but it works for them. They need it. Or do you just let animals go extinct, right? It's the natural way. I don't know the answer to that. In there for the entertainment of people, I mean, I like people. I love animals. I love people. I believe that people have a higher value than animals. Okay, I'm not an animal rights activist. Animal rights activists believe that animals have the same value as people. I do not believe that. So I think human happiness is important. SeaWorld, I don't know about SeaWorld, to be honest with you. I think it's in the middle a little bit. I'll tell you this. The happiest I've ever seen children in my entire life was my first day at SeaWorld Orlando. It was July. You can't do anything as a trainer. So the first day of being a trainer, there's nothing to do during a show. So they put you up in the audience and they say, watch the show. That whale came out. It's 90 degrees and humidity. That whale came out and splashed the first 15 rows. I have never seen children happier than I saw them that day. Does that mean those animals should be there? Probably not. Is it something? Yeah, I think it's something. I think it's something. I can go through every species and tell you whether they should be there or not, or every industry. Movie and TV industry, I do not like the movie and TV industry for animals. Now, it's going away because of CGI for movie and TV, but I've been to many movie and TV animal places. It is bad. It is not good. Those animals are not happy, nor do they. What does happiness have to do with doing A to B on set? They don't care. SeaWorld does care, actually. Zoos care, but they do things wrong. The dog training industry, I mean, that's a little different because they're not exotics, but I could go through all of it. I have a lot of opinions on this. My wife was in Blackfish, zoomed in on her. She was there the day one of the trainers in San Diego got taken down. He almost died. That my friend was killed. Dawn, the Orlando trainer that died, she was a really good friend of mine. She died. There's a lot of sort of speculation around that, and I don't know the truth, and I'll never ask those trainers because of what they went through that day. The trainers that were there, I will never ask them what happened because it affected them so horrifically. So this is a deep question. I know maybe you're like, Joel, this is a dog, podcast. We don't need to get that deep, but this is the interesting stuff too. This is the real stuff, in my opinion.
Well, you changed my perspective on something. I am one of those people that think to myself, I can't really have an opinion about something that I don't know. So that's why I asked you about, animals in captivity, because you've dealt with them. I've never dealt with them. I don't know if they're happy. I have no idea. But you did change my perspective on something, because oftentimes when you go to the zoo, you see animals with clear signs of stress. You see them pacing back and forth, doing the same thing over and over again. It is pretty obvious that they are stressed out and unhappy to be there. But by you mentioning something, which I should have thought about being in the dog world, is if you're giving them purpose and you're giving them a job, they're going to be much more fulfilled than if they're just sitting in a cage all day doing absolutely nothing. So I guess that changes my perspective a bit on animals that are being used for something like entertainment, because they are getting that constant, training from people where they're constantly working and using their brains and not having to just sit there for someone to look at. So that was an interesting perspective to hear from you. In regards to this being a dog channel, it really isn't. Even though I'm Girl with the Dogs, I like to interview people, like a wide variety of different things, because it keeps it interesting. Although we could talk about dogs for a long time. there comes a point where there's only so much we can say about dogs.
Props to you for just kind of having an open mind about this thing. Um, there are a lot of folks who don't, and that's fine. And that's where I think I'm a pretty good, I bring up things that they don't really think about. And I can say whatever I want about any industry. I know the people in the industries, they might get offended by it. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to tell the truth as I see it. And I could talk a lot longer on it, but I want to say one more thing about the wild versus captivity. I think, I don't know, but I think a lot of people have this fantasy about the wild. I don't know if they've seen the videos I've seen, because I've watched so many videos ever since I'm young, and now YouTube, you can watch everything, or maybe it's not on their feed. I don't know if they know how insanely brutal and painful and horrible the wild can be. I just don't know if they know that. Now, I'm not saying because a male lion has the most brutal, violent, horrible life of any animal, which is my opinion, I don't know if that means he should be in a zoo. I'm not saying that. I don't think it means he should be in a zoo, because 90% of male lions are going to die a violent, painful death by the time they're, I don't know, 2 years old. I don't think that means they need to be in a zoo, but let's not have a Disney-like perspective on what Africa is like. Let's work with actual facts and realize the brutality of it and go, yeah, that animal's gonna die, and it's gonna be very painful. And that mom's gonna see that their child die, and they're gonna go through a lot of pain. Now, killer whales are a bit of an exception. They're about the one exception out there, in my opinion, that actually have an easier life in the wild, because nothing really kills them. But that's it. Everything else is very violent and very bad. And there's some animal. Africa is just I'm not saying that they should be in captivity. I'm not saying that. But don't think for a minute that place out there is not painful and so it is. So realize that, and then form your opinions on captivity, but you have to realize that first. And if people want me to get into gruesome details about what life is like out there, I can give it to you, but just use your imagination and just trust that I don't care either way. So I'm telling you how bad it can be and how painful it can be for animals in the wild.
Nature documentaries are probably my most favorite thing to watch. So I completely understand what you're saying. Even though, it's a hard question to answer, should they be in captivity, their life is certainly easier in captivity. They're being fed, they have no threats, there's nothing to really be concerned about. So I get 100% what you're saying. And for people who don't watch nature documentaries, because a lot of people don't watch them because they are gruesome. So they don't want to see the realities, they'd rather stick their head in the sand. But it's interesting to watch them, even though like you feel bad for that animal that's dying. It's still, I don't know, I personally find it extremely fascinating, and I love watching them.
Yeah. You got to know before I form your opinion. Not you got to know all the facts and then form your opinion, and yeah.
Now, we talked about wild animals, and I loved that. And I think that you and I was just in San Diego, and I didn't realize you were in San Diego. And I was kind of pissed off at myself because I thought we could have done this in person had I realized. But, and I could probably talk to you for hours and hours and hours about wild animals. And if there's ever a time where you can get me to meet one in person, I will definitely take you up on that offer. But let's move to dog training and how you brought a lot of what you learned training wild animals into training dogs.
Okay. Shaping behavior using positive reinforcement. The bridge, which clicker bridge, whistle bridge, verbal bridge, bridges the gap in time between the behavior and the reinforcement. That a high level of understanding of operant conditioning, classical conditioning, that I brought into dog training. I was essentially, I guess, a force-free trainer when I came into dog training. And then I just started working with a lot of aggressive dogs. And I just was like, this positive reinforcement thing is just not working. Or maybe it's just too slow, or the people can't do it. That's one of the things that's missed. And I don't mean to jump right into this, but that's one of the things that's missed with trying to use force-free or positive reinforcement training with difficult situations is the difficulty and what you need to understand in order to do that. So extinction burst, negative reinforcement, all these concepts actually you have to understand in order to change an organism's behavior with using positive reinforcement, and the average person can't do it. And that's the thing that a lot of the force-free trainers run into, is they have an understanding of this, but they can't really teach their average person with a job and 2 kids to do this. So they're gonna have this problem forever. The problem is not going away, and that's the difficulty of. I sat in school for 2 years, then went to the Harvard at animal training, which is killer whale training, for 5 years. Every day, 8 hours a day. My school was like 12 hours a day. And then I came into dog training with this knowledge, and I can do it. The single mom with 3 kids, she just wants her dog to stop jumping. And I'm not saying she has to be some crazy expert on positive reinforcement to teach her dog to not jump. What about your dog being aggressive? What about, it's a hard thing to do. So you put in it 1 leash correction, doesn't hurt the dog, doesn't hurt the relationship with the dog. And the dog goes, oh, and I'm not saying it fixes them, but like it helps. And then hey, you save this lady $1,000 because we're not just teaching her all this stuff and using treats every second on the walk, and then it doesn't even work. So what I took, I know I can go off. Well, what I brought to dog training from marine mammal training was this level of understanding. It also probably, I could speak in front of people. So like I had no problem like in group classes, like commanding a room. I think that helped. That's small, but that helped. I had worked with a lot of animals, so I'd seen a lot of things, terrestrial and marine, and I don't know. I mean, it's you have groomed a lot of dogs. You train someone to groom. There's nuance to it. How to not get bit in the face. That's a big deal. How the signs to look for, all these different dogs walking through. I saw on your channel that door you show at the beginning. It starts right there, and you looking at the dog. Probably starts outside there, and you looking at the dog. There's all this stuff to it, and the more dogs you do, the more natural, and you see these little things. Well, I had worked with all these different animals, so I think that did something when I got to dogs. It wasn't just the stuff up here. I just seen a lot of stuff. And I'd worked with animals where you can die. You can't mess up. Like you can die. Whales, mountain lions, monkeys to a degree, mostly chimps you can die, but you can die. So when I got to dogs, there was a way I knew to be around them. I have to understand animal behavior and these small movements of them so I don't die. You become good at things when if you don't get good at them, you can die. You become good at them. And that's not to get off on it, but that's where I have a problem with some of these, with a lot of these folks that don't work with aggressive animals, then tell me how to work with aggressive animals. You got to get in front of a aggressive dog that wants to hurt you, and then you get good at your job real quick, and until you haven't, but like my guess is you've groomed aggressive dogs, and it's like someone tells you how to groom and they've never done that. It's a whole different ball game.
I loved what you just said about working with aggressive animals and then people telling you what to do, because I pretty much almost all of the dogs that I work on now have some type of behavioral issue, whether it's aggression or high anxiety or all of those types of things. And I do that specifically because now that I have a social media channel, I have more time to dedicate to these animals. And a lot of other groomers refuse to work on them because it's a liability, and I don't blame them. If you have to groom so many dogs a day for a living, you don't want to get hurt because then you might not be able to groom, right? But for me, I find a lot of enjoyment working with these types of animals and actually getting through it. And a lot of people will comment on my videos saying, you need to use positive reinforcement or what they call fear-free grooming. And I sometimes try to incorporate that, but I feel every dog is an individual and it doesn't always work that way. So a lot of the times I use correction as well. And people will tell me how to do my job and it drives me absolutely insane. So I loved hearing you say that, because that is probably one of the most frustrating things for me, is to read comments from people who have never done something like what I'm doing with aggressive animals every single day.
Yeah, no, it can be frustrating in the comments, dealing with that. I laugh it off most of the time. It's kind of enjoyable a lot of the time. And sometimes it's just, it's enjoyable most of the time, to be honest with you. Like I'm really confident in what I do. But sometimes it's frustrating. Yeah.
So you talked about fear-free, you talked about correction training. I find it interesting, specifically because I've watched a lot of your videos, and I've personally never seen a video, and maybe it's just because I haven't seen enough of them, but I've never seen a video where you've used a prong or you used an e-collar. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about why you try to refrain from using those, or maybe I just haven't seen enough videos.
All right. Years ago, I've trained so many dogs. It's out of control. And I can tell you why I've trained so many dogs, not just the time, but I taught so many group class. I just got busy real quick and got I became corporate trainer for these big places really quick. So I just got busy with board and train, in-home, and classes. I had a lot of dogs. So your sample size needs to be big, or my sample size was big. And I started many years ago. Someone would come out and their dog would be meeting my dog or another dog, and then their dog would do something. And I would go, it doesn't really make sense why that dog did that. And I don't know, probably the first few people, I would keep talking to them and it would come up that a shock collar was used. And then I would sort of slowly go, oh, okay. And then the next one I go, oh, okay. Then I started to put on there, has a shock collar or prong collar, but shock collar been used. Then I started to see this correlation between dogs doing weird things at weird times, aggressive things when they shouldn't have done an aggressive thing, and the correlation of e-collars. And I live by this. So when a dog has been trained with e-collars turned up too high and been essentially lit up for aggression, for looking at another dog, growling or lunging at another dog, then the e-collar turned up too high, you will see intense, sporadic, and random aggression. Because of classical conditioning. I don't know why it does it exactly, but something happens to their brain that is not normal. And here's a couple things. If you think, and by the way, I know great trainers that use e-collars. One of the probably the smartest dog trainer in the world uses low-level e-collars. I'm not going to use them. My methods are good enough without them that I don't need to use them. So I don't have to say, hey, here's a product for you, client, go spend $100. Or I don't need to, they don't need to carry something around. And my methods work almost as good for the not jumping a fence or recall or stay. E-collars work great for that. There's no other dogs involved. But when other dogs are involved and when aggression is involved, this e-collar turned up too high can do weird things to a dog's brain. Think about nature. Everything goes back to nature. There is nothing in nature like an electric shock. Okay? There's lightning bolts. I don't believe a dog's brain knows how to interpret an electric shock. That is my opinion. Does a dog know how to interpret a trainer or a person or another dog saying, hey, and grabbing them and saying, clapping or grabbing and then saying, knock it off, in what you've seen in my videos. And the dog going, okay, sorry, dude. Why would they know how to interpret that? Because their mom did that to them. Because it's been 10,000 years of sort of this other organism saying, looking them in the eye and saying, knock this nonsense off. This feeling of electric shock on their neck, I don't believe their dog, I don't believe it's never happened. Their brain is like, what is that? And then their brain,
It's not natural.
it's not natural, to put it very bluntly. This is my opinion, by the way. It's not my opinion that if you turn an e-collar up to 100, it lunges at a dog and you light them up, that you can no longer trust that dog. You just shocked away the precursors, or you scrambled the dog's brain. That is not my opinion. Call an e-collar trainer and he goes, oh, I work with aggressive dogs all the time. And then go, okay, hey, can you get my dog with a group of dogs? And they go, well, we don't really do that. Well, you know why they don't do that? Because they know that dog can flip the heck out real quick and you can't stop them. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a weird thing that happens. Now, I do want to preface this by saying low-level e-collar work, responsible e-collar work is different. It is better. Some of the best trainers out there use this stuff. And I'm fine with e-collar work for recall. I'm really fine with it for jumping fences. I'll tell people all the time, jumping fences is a really tough thing. Think about the reinforcement they get when they get out in the real world. Just you walking your dog will not fix the jumping the fence. Just you giving them marrow bones in the yard will not fix you jumping the fence. And I'll tell my clients, I'll go, hey, listen, you should call this e-collar trainer for this. I don't do it, but you should call them. But it's just something I'm not going to get into. What do I need every client in the world? Do I need to fix every single dog situation the quickest way it can be fixed? I don't need to do that. My recall method is slower than e-collars. I will admit that. My stay method is somewhat slower than e-collars. I don't need to become this other type of trainer and have them buy a $100 product to make the stay 30% better. Put in a little work, do my stay method. You'll be there a week later than you would with an e-collar.
Is this the same perspective that you have with prong collars as well, or is it different?
It's different. It's different. If you go on a walk and your dog lunges at a dog and you pop that prong super hard, I believe they can be more leash reactive to dogs. I do believe that. However, prongs are different. There is a natural sort of feeling that comes from that. It's just operant punishment, right? It's pain. They do the wrong thing, they feel some pain. If you pop the prong, I believe a gentle leader works better. And again, let's say a prong would be good for 10% of the dogs that come from me. I can be pretty good with my method without a prong. So am I going to become an e-collar, prong collar trainer for 10% of the people that can work a little better for? I just don't want to go down that road. It's just a personal choice, I guess, more than anything. But prongs, I'm actually kind of a fan of. I just don't use them. I just don't want to use them. I got enough things. One, I don't want more things. I have one tool. I have a gentle leader that I use on some of the dogs, some of the crazy pullers. That's it. I don't want a bunch of tools. I have a helper dog. I don't really need a helper dog. I don't need a gentle leader. I don't need anything to train any dog. So the less things I can use, see, anything you use, you have to fade out in animal training. You have to get rid of it eventually. So the more things you use, the more you have to fade. Or you use them forever, which is fine, I guess, some things. I don't want to use a bunch of stuff. I got to find ways around using a bunch of stuff.
You mentioned that you have a helper dog. So you have a Doberman named Prince. and you often use him in a lot of your videos to help with other dogs. So tell me first of all, how did that begin? How did you learn that using another dog was helpful, and how exactly does he help you?
It's insane. Prince is bigger star than me. Bosco, if he was on social media more 10 years ago, would have been a bigger star than me. I don't think anybody quite does what I do with a helper dog. And it all happened by accident. So I got Bosco, my first Doberman. Me and my wife didn't even have kids. We just got a Doberman kind of randomly. And I was at a house in Point Loma. I'll never forget it. I'd been in business a year. I think Bosco was like 9 months. And I basically go, okay, this 30-pound dog, he's kind of reactive. I'll just let Bosco in the side through her back gate. I'm like, what is this little scruffy, thin little dog going to actually do? So I open the gate, I let Bosco in. And it was the most remarkable thing maybe I've seen to this day. And I've seen a lot of helper dog, Prince and Bosco, doing their thing. Bosco comes in the side yard, and this dog freaked the heck out. And he runs up to Bosco and he viciously barks in his face, like right here. And you would have thought if you were to just look at Bosco, you would have thought that dog isn't even there. He basically just came in. This dog goes, wah, and is like, rah, 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 rah. And Bosco just kind of stood there, didn't even look at the dog, starts to cruise around the backyard, lifts his legs, because my dogs are crazy markers for whatever reason, lifts his leg a couple times, dog's just like, rah, 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 rah. And then the dog goes, oh, I'm not getting a response. This dog isn't cowering. This dog isn't attacking me. That's what the other dog thought. I'm getting nothing. The dog just eventually kind of calms. Bosco then goes and grabs a ball and then kind of comes to the dog and like drops it in front of the dog. And that last part isn't even, I think, the remarkable piece. And it was that day that I learned like that a dog could sort of help another dog by just being the way my dog was. So that was the beginning of it. And here's what I always say. Bosco was born, Prince was built. So Bosco created the helper dog job. He created it. I did not foresee it. I did not buy a dog to use him for that. I bought a dog to become a dog trainer, to be like any other dog trainer, and to go, hey, here's my well-trained dog, and hey, let me pass you on the street, to be as a demo dog. I did not ever envision my dog correcting another dog, ever. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. It'd be terrifying. So then Bosco was just the man. He was just the man at the facility. He was the boss, but he was a boss that everyone loved. No one wanted to disappoint him. It's like that stupid term, like guys want to be him, women want to be with him, or whatever that term is. Like, you're just the coolest guy in the world. And that's what dogs were to Bosco was to these dogs. But then he would occasionally correct a dog. But he was really just like a diffuser. Then Prince comes on. Bosco passes away. Prince comes along 2 years later. And I just started to kind of put him to work. Now, Prince is not Bosco. Prince had to be kind of emboldened. And there's a lot of ways to do that. This is taught in my Beckman coaching program of how to train and use a helper dog. Prince, he had to be taught how to do this. And then you can go to YouTube and go to my most popular videos. And one of them, I'm like, Prince is finally doing what I need him to do and kind of standing up to an aggressive dog. So now maybe once a month I have a session where Prince corrects a dog. Maybe once every 4 months. I don't know. It's not that often. People think it's all the time because every time it happens, I use it for a video, but it very rarely happens. But I only let him correct a dog when it's going to help the dog. Bullies need to get punched in the face. I don't know how else to say it. It's the way of the world. If you ever have children, or you see children, or someone's bullying to you, the single best way is for the target to stand up for themselves and do something to the bully. If you have kids and your kids are being bullied, sure, you can go into the school and you can talk to the school, you can talk to the bully's parents, you can talk to the bully and say, never do this again. But the target standing up for themselves and saying, that is unacceptable and here's your consequence to the bully, is the way. So a dog, Prince, correcting another dog for being a bully, which is generally what it is it's nature. It's the way it works. And I get a lot of heat for it. Um, I will but it only makes sense. Corrections, prong, e-collar, me grabbing the dog, me just saying, hey, desensitization for days and days and days. Okay, avoid dogs. There's other ways to deal with it. How about the dog just gets whooped by the dog he's trying to bite? It ain't rocket science. It's the simplest thing in the world. But people go, poor dog, aggression doesn't exist. You should do it another way. Nah, or you can just have the dog. The dog's trying to bite my dog for no reason. After I ran the dog, after the dog desensitized to Prince, after I did all this stuff, which I only made, might be 2 minutes in a video, but it's 20 minutes at my facility. Maybe it's a day at my facility of desensitization, of Prince being cool, of Prince going, I don't want to fight, bro. And the dog's like, let's fight. Prince going, I don't want to, let's be cool. Dog goes, I don't want to be cool. Okay. Get your butt whooped. Like, it's how the world works.
You have to have a lot of confidence in your dog to have him be a helper dog and face these other aggressive dogs, because my German Shepherd, for example, is friendly. She loves other dogs. And one time we let her loose with a friend's dog. And that friend's dog isn't a nice dog. And he was trying to attack my Shepherd. And my Shepherd was being very patient until she wasn't. And then when she wasn't patient, she pinned that dog to the ground and punctured his neck. And fortunately, he's okay. And that was her correcting him. But I, after that, never have confidence with her being around another aggressive dog, because, it's obviously their natural defense mechanism to fight back. And obviously, if you have a large dog and a small dog together, that fight back could end poorly. So how do you have enough confidence in your dog? I know you're probably going to say training, but it's still nature to protect themselves. So how do you have enough confidence in your dog that they won't actually try to kill the other dog?
So I have to be careful with not every dog is going to get helped by a correction. And I have to be careful of letting Prince do this if he has real animus for the dog. Okay. So I've never seen Prince hurt a dog, a puncture. Okay. Is it possible? It is possible. So I guess it's possible. Sure, anything's possible. So I have to make sure, if he thinks the dog is trying to kill him, I think he's going to do something worse to the dog. And plus, if the dog's trying to kill, you have to be very careful with the thing that I do. And maybe I should put on my channel, only done by a professional. People have said that. I don't know. But I have to be careful. The dog has to be being a bully. If a dog is trying to seriously injure another dog, not only is it not safe for my dog, it's not safe for that dog, because my dog might hurt that dog. But if that's the case, a correction from my dog doesn't even work, or a correction from almost any dog doesn't work, because it's different. It's different when the dog is like, I want to hurt that other dog. I've used the term bully for many reasons in this, and not true, I want to attack and hurt that other dog. So Prince hasn't punctured a dog because I'm careful with the dogs he does this to, and because he loves dogs. He just doesn't want to hurt them. So I got to make sure he doesn't want to hurt them. If he wants to hurt them, he'll bite harder. He just doesn't bite hard. And he knows his job. It's just been, 4 years of just slowly nurturing this deal with him and knowing him. It's a hard thing to describe, I guess, but I think I did an okay job of it.
So this is a comment that I get on a lot of my videos when I'm working with difficult dogs. People love to comment, there are no bad dogs, only bad owners. And I personally kind of disagree with this statement, and I'd love to know what your opinion is of that statement.
Wow, I'm with a like-minded person. It's good to talk to a like-minded person. Are there bad people in the world? I'd say there are. I think there's no bad dogs is silly. Like, I don't know, is a dog that wants to kill another dog a bad dog? I think we could probably use that term. Um, is a dog that wants to bite a child for no reason and kill a child a bad? I mean, I think we can use that term. See, here's the thing. I don't think there's bad wild animals. They're just doing what they do, and then you put them in captivity. They also do what they do. That's different. Dogs aren't wild animals. They're not people. They're in this. I talked about this on my podcast the other whatever. They're in the middle. They're the only animal that's like in the middle of worlds. They have to follow our rules and our laws. And they can't run around biting people. And they can't run around free. So they live in this world of us of laws. But they're animals. And they're not wild animals. They can't do that. But we also can't let them in the wild. Like, it's a weird thing. So they have to follow our laws. So they're not wild animals. So they kind of are there bad owners? Of course there's bad owners. I've seen dogs with great owners and they're just aggressive dogs that want to hurt things. No bad dogs is just this. It's what it is to me is it's like an animal rights thing. No bad dogs. I'm vehemently opposed to the animal rights movement because I like people. Animal rights activists, they don't love animals, they hate people. No bad dogs is this sort of, it gives a pass to anything they do. There's no bad dogs. They killed a kid. Yeah, but there's no bad dogs. No, I mean, they killed my little tiny dog. Yeah, but there's no bad dog. Like, you can just say that for anything. Of course, I mean, what does that mean, bad? What does that mean? I mean, I don't know what that means. The dog who bit, people die, I think, every day in this country from dogs. If they were raised perfectly, would they do that? I don't know. So you have to have an animal that's raised perfectly in order to not kill somebody? That seems odd to me, you know? No, nothing's raised perfectly. My kids aren't raised perfectly. My dog's not raised perfectly. Nothing's raised perfectly. Can't expect a human to raise a dog perfectly. So that's my thoughts.
I think when people say that statement, what they're trying to say is, okay, there's a pit bull that gets loose. It kills another dog. It's not a bad dog. It's the owner's fault for letting that dog get loose. I understand that statement. I get it. The owner should have had better control of their dog. But I think what people are trying to say is because of the owner's lack of training, that dog ended up doing something that was really bad. In my personal experience, grooming for over 13 years, I have met people that have done every type of training, that have gone to the vet and gotten different types of medication, that have done absolutely everything they could. One person in particular with their Akita. And there was just something in that Akita's brain. And one day it was at home with its family and a family member outside of the house that it knew very well. And absolutely nothing happened. And the dog just jumped up and attacked the person for no reason at all. For me, it's not that the dog is bad. I'm not going to use the term bad, but I can't blame the owner for what happened after the owner did everything they could to try to fix this behavior. I think some dogs are animals, and animals are always unpredictable. I always tell people that in my videos. I have been grooming this dog for 10 years. He's always been a good dog, but it's a Cane Corso and it's 150 pounds, and I'm still not going to put my face too close to his face in the event that he turns and decides he wants to bite me that day. So they're unpredictable, and of course we can do the work that we need to do, but that's why I don't agree with that statement, because at the end of the day, they're animals and anything can happen. That's my personal opinion.
I really like your point about the people side of it, which is like, you and me, you're like, I've seen many people who have done everything they can, medication, all types of training, and it didn't work. And that's a great point. So yeah, we're at an impasse at this point. Like, what do we label? Are we saying those people are bad? Sounds like they did everything they can. or what? Yeah, no bad dogs, just bad owners. So under that statement, we're saying those people are bad. They're not bad. You've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand. People doing every single thing they can. Plus, think about it. Right now, you're being told, and for 20 years, whatever, you're being told to save a dog. Don't breed, buy. No, don't buy, breed. Whatever. No, don't, whatever that term is, right? Don't rescue, don't buy. I don't know what it is. You're being told to rescue a dog.
Adopt, don't shop.
Thank you. I butchered it. Adopt, don't shop. Okay, I love it. Great. Okay, fine. Whatever. You're what's the dog's background? What's the dog's past? Like, oh, now you're a bad owner. You didn't the dog came from the streets. The dog came from somewhere, but you're the bad owner. You were told to adopt this dog and bring it into your house. Oh, you don't have enough money for training? Sorry, you're a bad owner. The person's like, I adopted a dog. I'm not a rich person. I can't go to the vet all the time and change medications, which happens with vets. They're constantly changing meds. You're dropping in. I got to go train her. Like, I'm doing what the person's like, I'm doing what I was told to do. Now I'm being called a bad owner. It's the wording of that. Like, no bad dogs, only bad owners. It's done very intentionally worded like that. And that's bad. That's why normal society. So the average person goes, oh yeah, that sounds good. But they don't think about what that means. No bad dogs, only bad owners. The wording of it is actually very important, and the normal person goes, oh yeah, like animals in captivity. Oh yeah, there shouldn't be animals. It's very easy to say no animals in captivity, but when you think deeper about it, it might not be totally true. You really got to think about things.
I think this goes back to the statement. Well, what we said earlier is I can't really have an opinion on something I don't know. So for me, people that say things like adopt, don't shop, and no bad dogs, just bad owners, that's coming from animal lovers, but not animal people. There's always a difference between animal people and animal lovers. Animal people know animals. They know dogs, they know cats, whatever their, niche is. And so because of that, they understand the behaviors. They understand why it's so important that breeding continues and we can't just adopt. Not all dogs can or should be saved, in my opinion. There are dogs that have severe behavioral issues or medical conditions that it would just be better for the quality of that dog's life to not be here anymore. That's my opinion. So I feel like a lot of those statements just come from people that really just don't know animals the way that people like us know animals.
Hey, props to you. I know you're about to talk, but props to you. You've said multiple times on here, like, I don't speak about things I don't know or something. That's actually a really mature way to think. And I don't think that's that common. I guess it's somewhat common, but maybe I don't hear it that much. And props to you for that.
I say that statement a lot when it comes to politics. People always ask me, who are you going to vote for or something? And I always say, well, I don't follow politics. I don't know anything. So I can't really have an opinion on who the world leader should be because I don't know anything. But anyways, that's a topic for another day. Okay, so I think the last thing I want to talk about is YouTube itself, because you're the first person I think I've really had on this podcast that also has a successful YouTube channel. So you told me how it started, and tell me a little bit more about what it's like. Do you edit all your videos? How much time are you spending making YouTube content?
Yes, I edit all my videos. My trainers film my videos. I basically take an interesting session that is either I can teach the audience something, or it has some funny parts, or it has some interesting parts. If it has any of those things, I'll make a video and I just put it on my computer. I edit it. I almost 90% of the time I do a voiceover. It just kind of became my thing. And so I'll fill in the blanks. How much time do I spend on YouTube videos? I don't spend that much time at all, to be honest with you. I mean, it takes hours to edit a video for sure, but I'm doing like one a week. I wish I could do more. I've got 3 kids. They do a lot of sports. I've got these other programs. I've got a physical facility with trainers that I need to train. I've got a wife. I've got a life. So I don't spend a lot of time.
if somebody, I always tell people, because people ask me, how did you do this? How did you grow your channel? And my advice is usually just start filming and start posting, kind of exactly what your friend said. You just have to start somewhere, even if you're just posting stupid videos that you don't think are going to get any views. So if somebody is asking you, how do I get views on my videos? What would you tell them from your perspective?
I'd say teach people something. That would be my main thing, is teach them something. I came in to YouTube after being a dog trainer for 10 years. I also didn't listen or watch or follow any other dog trainer. And I just had all these dogs that I had trained. And so I essentially developed my own methods. So my doorway method, my treats from the scary stimulus method, my circle of trust method, they were my methods. Then I'm not saying I invented the concept of treats from the scary stimulus, but I proofed it with so many dogs that by the time it hit the internet, really hadn't been seen. And so I had a leg up because many of my methods had not been seen. I didn't know I would have that leg up. I didn't know my methods were somewhat unique. I didn't know the helper dog thing was somewhat unique. But I would say teach people something. YouTube is still a teaching medium, in my opinion. TikTok's a little different, although it's trying to be sort of YouTube-ish. That's why you can do long form. Instagram's different. They're all different. But on YouTube, I'd say teach people something. I don't care that much about, I do. I care about video and audio quality. But my first videos are almost unwatchable, to be honest with you, with the audio and whatnot. So that shouldn't hold you back. You're never going to get anything perfect. There will be audio problems. There will be, to a degree, video problems. You can always buy a more expensive camera, but it doesn't mean you should. You just got to start making videos, but you can't make bad videos. Like you do have to be somewhat good at what you do, but you got to start sometime. You don't have to be perfect at what you do. But I do think you got to teach. I guess that's where I started. I don't know where everyone else started, but I was just trying to teach the audience the way I believed was best and show them the way I believed was best. That's what I did. Don't talk. It's enough. I find it so funny. Like your videos, you're actually grooming a dog. There are dog trainers, they just talk. I'm like, hey, dog trainer, you're on a video medium. Like, you can show training a dog. You don't have to just talk into a microphone. Like I do a podcast just like you, and it's fun. And I do some talking videos. It's fine. It's good. But my God, I can't imagine if I was just a talker, which a lot of these dog trainers are. I'm like, it's a video medium. This isn't Twitter. This isn't like when a debate format. Just show your work, which I just find hilarious.
I can definitely relate to what you're saying. As soon as you said it, it was, teach somebody something, show them, and then having your own unique perspective on something entices people to watch. I feel like I did everything that you just said, but in the dog grooming world. And that's how I started making content. And originally mine just came with teaching because we were closed down during COVID. So I thought I got to teach people how to do this themselves. So that's really how it all started for me too. So interesting to hear that it's the same for you. I think at this point, we're probably out of time. We are, over time, but I feel like you and I could talk for a long time about dogs.
I agree. Can I say something to you though?
Yep.
Okay, so I watched some of your videos. I always like to hear somebody say why they like my videos or why they think my videos are successful. I should have watched more of your videos. That would have been great. But I did watch some. And so the few things that I got from your videos was, so you have a nice voice. There's something about your voice that's just like it's almost like you're a voiceover actor or something. There's just something about your voice that is easy on the ears, of which I don't really have. Secondly, you go into the dog's breed. You explain like things about the breed. So you're teaching them something. I like how you do that. Well, the videos I saw, you have the dog walk in, so you have a kind of a consistent thing to the dog, like they're walking into your place. I don't know if you do that anymore, but I saw some of your bigger videos, and I need to watch more. But I'm just going to give you from a visceral seen four of them reaction. That's the little bit I saw. Okay, and you're killing it. It's amazing how many views you get on a video. They're all out of control. You're doing something that people are picking up on. You probably know better than me. Um, but it's also hard when you're in the middle of it, like you're you or I'm me. It's hard to say exactly why they like these videos. I've found. I don't totally know. I can look at the little up parts, right? Prince getting mad at a dog is kind of obvious, but there's other reasons. And I don't really know why, but it is important to know why.
Well, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate it. For me personally, when I started posting, my first video that went viral was just me grooming my German Shepherd. And I just realized that people had no idea how to do this themselves. And while obviously I'm a groomer and I get paid to groom animals, or at least I did get paid to groom animals, I understand that people could do this at home and actually save a ton of money, and not everybody can afford groomers. And what happens is dogs that need to be groomed are going way too long not being groomed because people just don't know how to do it themselves. So that was, I think, the first thing that started people watching my content. Was it was interesting to see the process and the equipment that I use and all the products, because people just didn't know they existed or how to use them properly. And then I started to realize that the aggressive dogs do really well, or dogs that have behavioral issues, because once again, a lot of these dogs are getting kicked out of salons. And so people have to do it at home. So they need to learn how to do it themselves. Not everybody, I wish everybody could bring their difficult dog to me, but obviously the world is big, right? For me, watching your content, the first thing that popped out for me was Prince. And as you said, all other trainers, I've never seen anybody really use a helper dog. And I thought it was specifically interesting because puppies, a good breeder won't let them go home until they're at least 8 weeks, but even better breeders will wait 12 weeks. And that's because the mother dog is teaching the puppies manners. And so that's exactly what Prince is doing, is teaching dogs manners. And I just thought it was very interesting to watch how he reacts. And I was always just very impressed with him, and specifically because you trust that he is not going to injure that dog. And so that was itself was very intriguing for me. I also love your facility and your setup and your property. I'm envious of it. It's beautiful. So I enjoy watching that as well. And then also, one of the main things was the fact that you have trained exotic animals. That to me, like, you're probably the only dog trainer I know that has trained exotic animals as well. And that's intriguing in itself, not just because I love exotic animals and I would love to actually meet them in person, but also how you use that into your perspective. And the last thing for me was that I never saw you use a prong collar or an e-collar. And growing up, the only type of dog training that has ever been shown to me is prong collar training. So I also thought it was interesting how you manage to train animals. I know that there's lots of fear-free dog trainers that do that, but I've just never really seen it. And I know you still use corrections. You're not just a fear-free trainer, but you don't use those tools. So all of those things for me and I think that really relates to, because I am an animal person, a dog person, I see those specific things and they're very interesting to me. But maybe your average pet owner wouldn't find those specific things that interesting because they don't know the dog world. So that's why I was intrigued by your content.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So I think we should probably end this off. People are going to have a nice long video to listen to, but I thought it was really very interesting. A lot of the things that you had to say, seems like we're on the same page with quite a bit of stuff. So it was very nice meeting you. I appreciate you being on the podcast. Where can people find you?
Beckman's Dog Training on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. If you need dog training, beckmansdogtraining.com. And if you want to become a dog trainer, or you have an aggressive dog, email beckmanventures@gmail.com and write coaching if you want to become a dog trainer, and write aggression if you have an aggressive dog and want to be in the program, which is a very intensive actually fix your aggressive dog program. And that'll be live in 2.5 weeks.
Perfect. So for those watching, I will have all of Joel's links in the description for you. And that's it for today's episode. I appreciate you guys all tuning in, and I will see you next week for another episode of Talk Your Tail Off.